Let's start with James in Australia.
All right.
Hi, James. Can you hear us?
Oh, no, because I haven't turned on the bus to sending our audio to them. Now they can.
Okay, they can hear us now. James, you are on the air with Eric and V.
Hey, g'day guys, how are you?
Hello, how can we help you today?
Yeah, look, I was just wondering what you guys' opinions are, what your opinions are on the, like we were talking about before, the Texas abortion bill, and whether or not you think that could send an indicator to other conservative Christian representatives and kind of open some floodgates to trying to get some of their beliefs enshrined and protected by law.
Yeah, James, that is a really good question and really the topic of the hour. I do think so, not because of speculation, but because of things that are already beginning to happen and have happened as a result. So the first thing is that, yes, Florida is already building their own version of this bill, and more conservative-run states are going to begin doing the same. This has been the go plan for a while now. This is the reason why so many people were talking about the Supreme Court back in 2018, 2019, 2020. This was the fear, and it is coming true. But a larger concern, that if that was not concern enough, a larger concern that a lot of people have is that the reason that this bill got under the Supreme Court's radar is because it's essentially a Rube Goldberg machine. It was created specifically to dodge a lot of the things that the Supreme Court would be able to flag right away. And it's so complicated, and the fact that they are civil suits that are being brought against these people, as opposed to the government suing anything, it essentially confused, quote unquote, everyone enough to get through. So the larger takeaway that a lot of people who might want to write really horrible bills targeting vulnerable demographics is if you make it confusing enough, if you model it after this bill about abortion, about trans rights, about, police brutality, whatever it is, they will get through because it's just, quote unquote, too complicated, which, is bullshit. I'm just going to call it. But the fact that that is what they're relying on, oh, well, this was just a very complicated bill. We don't have the ability to push back on this because it's so complex, kind of opens up the door for a lot more bills that look like this that will target a lot more than just, reproductive care.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely, James.
I don't know how to add to that. You were pretty well. I mean,
I have been doing nothing but following this for the last 3 days.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I can definitely throw in a different angle and a different view, but I'm still coming from the same side. That's why we'd love for other people who disagree with us to call in. But what it does socially, what it does is it's pushing people to kind of witch hunt. This idea that somebody could, because they don't like someone, whistleblow, call in and say, oh, this person definitely got an abortion. You should totally check them out, and then sink them in legal fees, sink them in issues like that is just, it's terrifying. It makes me think of something like swatting. Have you heard of swatting? When people call the SWAT, the police department,
Yes,
the police department send a SWAT team to somebody's house. Like it reminds me of that. So it's atrocious.
Yeah.
But
it's fucking. I know. Does the law also cover, like, if people from Texas travel to another state to get an abortion where it is legal to get one, can they still be sued for getting an abortion outside of Texas? Or does it only have to be done in Texas?
Right. So the law that got passed is only applicable to Texas. I know that some states, including Ohio, which has horrible reproductive care right now, made it a felony regardless of where you get the abortion. So, like, if you go to a state where it is legal, if you return to Ohio, they can still charge you.
Wait, so Texas went on this huge branch, and Ohio said, "Hold my beer."
Ohio has been holding Texas's beer.
Well, Texas is holding Ohio's now.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
rough.
Yeah, no, Ohio has been, like, slipping under the radar is one of the worst. But yes, so you can still, if you live in Texas, go to another state to get an abortion. I know Nevada has it enshrined in their state law that reproductive care is protected. A lot of other states as well. The problem is abortion already costs money, right? And so does the time that you have to take off of work. And so to add travel to that, as well as if you already have kids, childcare or, room and board. So like what this is doing essentially is targeting people who can't afford to do that. So anybody who has enough money can still get an abortion in Texas or elsewhere. What this is doing essentially is making it really difficult, nigh impossible for people who are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to bring up, was that it doesn't really impact anyone else except for the, it does impact everybody, but it will disproportionately impact those who are kind of less well off in society there, because, they seem, well, I can only speak from Australia, and the lower income end in Australia has statistically more kids than those who earn more money. So if that's the same in Texas, it's just going to build in entrenched poverty.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're just going to be completely fucked.
Yeah, that is a good summary of that, James. We are, in a word, fucked. I could go on and talk about this forever. I know we have tons of callers lining up, which is amazing. But James, thank you so much for calling in and for following this. I know that Australia feels, is a world away. But we love that you guys are paying attention and asking questions and getting engaged, because frankly, we need all the help we can get right now. So thank you for calling in.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
So I'm kind of glad that we got to have that conversation up front so that we can just have that and then move into other things.
So one more thing that I do want to bring up before we move on, which is the other reason why this is so insidious. And that is because if you have, I know you probably haven't, which is probably good, Jane Elliott, who is known for being this brutally honest and like kick-ass anti-racist educator, references The Birth Dearth, which is a book written in the 1980s. And this book essentially opens by saying, it's essentially replacement theory. We are being replaced as white people by people of other races coming into the US. And by X date, there will not be a white majority in the United States. The best way to do that, to stop that from happening, is to force white people to have children. And it lines up with the movement to begin attacking reproductive rights and healthcare rights in the US. And this has been a known undercurrent across the board for the last 20, 30 years, which is maybe individual people. If you are an individual person who supports this ban and you think it's because you're saving babies, you've been conned by people who are white supremacists who want to make sure that white people remain in the majority.
I don't know about that one.
This is an absolute fact.
So is the, I'm sorry, but my inner, like, skeptic, I gotta say, I remember listening to a lot of Christian radio and them going, or Republican radio, and rules for radicals, that they're just using rules for radicals as a guidebook, that this thing that is going on politically by the left is out of the rules for radicals, guide to, taking over. And I don't know. How could we tell that because I absolutely believe it's influenced by it, but to what degree? You know what I mean?
Yes, there have been ongoing conversations about this across the board. Jane Elliott kind of waved that flag and pointed out maybe where this thing started with this book. But this has been an ongoing conversation. It just isn't the one that they preach from the pulpit, because a lot of people rightly would be incensed by that.
Horrified
by that. Because there are good people who have been conned into believing that they are saving babies through these laws. And they're preying on that empathy. and lack of scientific education in order to pass these laws that have a much darker and more insidious
contributing just groundwork that it's swelling up from.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I
Cheers.
wanted to make sure to bring that up as well, because
Yeah.
there is so much more at stake here. Again, even if this was the only thing at stake, the rights of people with uteruses in Texas, that would be enough to be outraged. There is so much more. So much more. All right.
We're turning into a third world country.
We are putting that to bed for this episode. But if you have questions, leave them in the comments. DM me if you need resources or if you need things to do, because I've been following, Anonymous has put out Operation Jane, which is very exciting. One of the reasons why Epic had to remove them from the site. But yeah, reach out. I have ways you can help. I have resources for you if you need to talk.
Definitely.
Yeah.